Welcome to Retire Right with Rick Durkee, presented exclusively by the Coastal Financial Planning Group here on News Radio 94.3 WSC. Rick Durkee is the retirement income planning and wealth distribution specialist in the Lowcountry. Are you ready to retire right? Here's your host this morning, Shane Griffin.
Good morning. Welcome in for another edition of Retire Right with Rick Durkee. Each and every Saturday morning here at 9 o'clock, I have the privilege of sitting down with our local retirement, income planning, and wealth distribution specialist, Rick Durkee, to help you to retire right. Good morning, sir. Good to see you.
Good morning, Shane Griffin.
Another busy weekend here in the Lowcountry.
Another busy weekend, another busy week at the Coastal Financial Planning Group.
Absolutely. It's hard to believe that April has come and April has gone. You had a couple of events last week, and you had an event earlier in the month of April, and it's been a very busy month for you and your team at the CFP.
Yeah, we had our first retirement roundtable events, which I moderated. It was great to get local community retirees all talking together about their concerns and solutions to retirement's concerns. Then we had our Ruth Chris traditional dinner workshops and covered topics from a tax standpoint, from an income planning standpoint, and also from a wealth distribution standpoint. Gave some good pointers on what retirees are using for some of the most successful strategies in retirement, and then also talked about risk, market risk, and longevity risk, and things like that. So, Shane, we did our job. We always do what we do at the Coastal Financial Planning Group because we feel that information such as what we provide here on Retire Right is not made available through any kind of educational format. Again, we look forward to 2 classes this summer at the College of Charleston, 2 each in June and August for retirement income planning. And then coming up next week, we're giving a presentation to the Alcoa retirees.
Right.
And they invited us to speak at their retiree luncheon. And very thankful for that. Folks, if you have any group or civic organization meeting and you need someone to speak to you about issues facing retirees, we're always happy to provide that service to the community also. We can give a 20-minute talk and cover 3 or 4 important topics and educate your group on some things that they need to know about so that they can make a retirement decision based on fact and logic versus some of the myths and misconceptions that people have about different topics going into and throughout retirement.
The topic this morning, why buy and hold is a bad idea for retirees. Before we get into the article that I found at marketwatch.com, a few reminders. First of all, if you've missed a past program or want to go back and listen, you can visit the podcast page at 943wsc.com. You can also access the podcasts at Rick's website, cfpgroup.biz. While you're at his site, be sure to check the calendar of events. Lots of activities, as he mentioned just a moment ago, coming up over the next few months. And if you'd like a transcript of the program, if you'd like to read the show, you can call the office and they will send you out a transcript of the program, 843-735-5065. With that in mind, let's move on to the article. Again, why buy and hold is a bad idea for retirees. Ken Moriff recently, Rick, wrote an article for MarketWatch, and one line in the opening paragraph really got my attention. Quote, if you had retired 15 years ago and then followed a buy and hold strategy, you would now be out of money, end quote. Withdrawal rate and drawdown are a deadly combination for a retiree, isn't it, Rick?
So that was about 1999, I guess.
Roughly.
Yeah.
Yep, absolutely.
Wow. So we look at, if it was a buy and hold strategy and it wasn't diversified amongst many different asset classes, you were looking at maybe a benchmark index of the S&P 500 or the Dow, and we look at what happened during that time frame, the volatility that occurred. Prior to that, of course, we had the longest bull run in our nation's history in the U.S. stock market. We had the 80s, the early 80s, all the way through up till 1999. So then this particular retiree that may have retired in 1999 then goes into 2000, 2001, and 2002 with a drawdown in the S&P 500 of approximately 50%. They come back up 2007. They drop back down from 2007 to 2009, and we see another approximate 50% drop in the S&P 500 during that time. So it's so very important, Shane, that if you're retired during that time frame and you're withdrawing money out of your pool of assets,
right,
that you're withdrawing the proper amount from your nest egg first. Wade Pfau, PhD, Princeton University, has done many studies on the proper withdrawal rate. And if we go back, say, about 10 years, his withdrawal rates were looking like 4%
right.
was favorable. Then recent studies now have said that due to current market volatility, those examples that I just gave from 2000 to present, due to those years, those drawdown years where things are going down and you're withdrawing money out, that 4% rate is no longer favorable.
Right.
We did an income planning workshop for our clients and a few prospects a few weeks ago at our office. And we have Wall Street Journal articles now that are saying that as low as a 2% rate of withdrawal is now considered safe. And if you consider that retirement may last, instead of 30 years, 40 years, because maybe you're retiring early or you're just living longer, maybe past 100, and everybody's out there saying, I'm not going to live to be past 100. Folks, I'll say this, you don't have a choice. And if you're taking care of yourself now and you're probably more healthy than you've been in your earlier years of life and you've got good doctor's care,
right,
then you're probably going to hit 100. Statistics are unfortunately not in your favor to die before then. They are in your favor to live that long. So knowing the proper withdrawal rate and what to withdraw from your nest egg is very important. Protecting against downside risk is important because if you had a choice, and we'll ask this question to our listener right now. Do you think that the market is going to continue at the rate that it's been going up since 2009, where the market dropped down to its bottom? Or do you think it might have a better chance of maybe starting some type of a drawdown or a downturn? Okay. If you think that measuring against downside risk is important to you as you near retirement, or if you're already in retirement, making sure that you minimize downside risk.
Right.
And let me say this again, too. There is a way that you can allocate the proper amount into guaranteed products that will guarantee you will have no drawdown and guarantee an interest rate of performance that will well, let me say this. It's not an interest rate of performance that it guarantees, an interest rate of payout that's guaranteed for you and perhaps your spouse's lifetime. That if you protect yourself with a certain amount of assets there that totally protect you against downside risk, then you can take a little bit more risk with your other monies for future use.
Right.
But if it's an investment, folks, it has downside risk. You're not going to miss all the downs all the time. You're going to have some downs. You need to make sure that your risk tolerance is set properly to take that maximum drawdown and then stop,
right,
and then step out to the sideline. So it's really important that you manage downside risk right before retirement and when entering retirement, and also throughout retirement, not only with your guarantees that you place on your income-producing products, but also with your investment products that you're trying to grow to outpace inflation, and also to be there for future needs, for lump sum needs, or for creating or filling income gaps, or perhaps some plans to do some things with the money that you want to do later in life. Now, if you protect your assets as you near or are in retirement, then you have a high degree of confidence that your plan is going to take you throughout retirement, and you'll have a stress-free retirement. There is a conversion in retirement thoughts from accumulation to distribution,
right,
from return on your money or returns to return of your money. So we need to keep all of those things in mind as we talk about things like a historical performance of the Dow or the S&P 500 going back 15 years, making an example where people could actually have run out of money if they retired in 1999.
Well, in the article, Mr. Morriff walks us through an example from the lost decade to show in real numbers how withdrawal rate and drawdown affect a person's nest egg. And so what I did this morning, Rick, is I gave you the article and an opportunity for you to read through this opportunity. Instead of me walking the listener through it, I thought for that person's benefit, you could walk someone listening this morning through this scenario. It is quite sobering once we get to the end of it.
It is, Shane, and this is now why you didn't tell our listeners last week what we were going to talk about this week, but then you just throw it on me, right? Okay.
Right.
You gave it to me this morning, folks. Okay, well, here's the example. Now, this is an example of a retirement plan where a certain amount of money is in the pot to start with, a certain withdrawal rate is used, inflation is factored in, and then so we'll walk through history and market performance during this example and show how this money actually was worth what it was and ran out. Yeah. So let's say that you began your retired life with $1 million. $1 million is a round number. It's easy for calculations. You may be saying, I don't have $1 million, or you may be saying, I have 3. You can easily do the math by rounding these examples. If you have a $500,000, the end result is still going to be the same. You're going to have half of nothing, which is still nothing. Okay?
Right.
All right. So you began your retired life with $1 million. Each year you took out 4%, which easily equates with my math genius to $40,000 a year of a withdrawal.
Right.
You also had to take out 3% more each year to keep up with inflation. So in this math example, year 1, the amount you withdraw is $50,000. 40,000.
Right.
In year 2, it was $41,200. In year 3, it was $42,436, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, throughout your retirement lifetime.
Okay.
So in 2000, your first year of retirement, you took out $40,000, but oops, the market dropped, and it went down 10%. Not bad. You only lost $100,000.
Good Lord.
10%. Equate that to dollars, folks. If you don't want 10% or $100,000 to drop out of that $1 million portfolio, you need to have risk triggers in place to monitor your investments, to have you step out to safety. Maybe you're okay with 10%. Maybe your number needs to be closer to 5. But you don't need to be in a buy and hold strategy like we talked about last week's show. Okay? So you are left with $860,000 after your withdrawal of $40,000.
And the drop of $100,000.
And the drop of the market, yep. Then the next year, the market dropped 13% in 2001. It took almost $112,000 of your investment due to market-based risk. Plus, you took out $41,200 to live on. Your investments now are at $700,000.
After 2 years.
After 2 years.
$300,000 just gone.
And a buy and hold strategy that is U.S. domestic stock market equities based. You're not diversified amongst asset classes. You do not have independent risk triggers on those asset classes. And you are going with the flow and saying, it's okay, the market goes down and the market comes back up, I'll make this back up. Well, example again, 2002 came along, so we're in the third year. Oops, the market went down 23%. You were down $500,000 you were down to $500,000 after the third year.
You lost half of your nest egg in 3 years.
3 years.
Holy smokes.
Now, will this ever happen again like this, folks? Probably not, okay? Chances are very unlikely that it'll happen like this, but it shows us an example of sequence of returns risk.
And the dangers of buy and hold.
Early.
Yeah.
You had losses early in your retirement income withdrawals. So now, luckily, 2003 came along and the market went up 26%. Your investments grew by $131,000 for now's total after 4 years, right? $600,000 in your account.
Okay.
Let's fast forward here to 2008 now when the market plummeted 40% again. You would have lost $200,000 plus you took out $50,000 for living expenses due to inflation.
Holy
Guess
smokes.
how much money you have now left, Shane? Have you been calculating along as
I
you
have.
went along here?
And I have the article in front of me.
Yeah, okay.
290 grand.
$290,000.
Your
That's
million
right.
is down to 290 after 8 years.
8 years. Your investments would have gone from $1 million down to less than $300,000. Not only that, but the $50,000 you withdrew for cost of living was no longer 4% of your investments, but closer to 19%. So in order to support your retirement lifestyle, you'd have had to make 19% every year then for the rest of your life. And if you didn't, you'd fall flat on your face and be broke by 2013. So again, will this...
Boy, if that didn't hit you between the eyes, my goodness.
Will this market ever do that? And would somebody be in 100% buy and hold strategy in the S&P 500 at this point in their life in retirement? I sure hope not. But even if you're in a diversified portfolio of stocks in the U.S. stock market, and mutual funds in the U.S. stock market, and you sprinkle in a little international here and there stocks, you're not de-risking enough. If you are using asset allocation and you're bringing down your risk by moving from stocks into bonds, and you're maybe 60% in bonds right now, you've got some future interest rate risk you should be concerned about with those bonds and possible drops in values, even though you might have the income promised to you. But certainly, too, those bonds can maybe be called, or maybe you might need to cash them in because you have some kind of a financial emergency and you need to cash them in, and the values are down. You're selling at a discount, folks. You're not getting what you put into that bond.
Right.
So asset allocation failed miserably during this time period of this example. Your buy and hold strategy failed miserably during this time of this example.
Goodness.
And it's all because you didn't protect your assets with an income plan that discusses the probability of success or failure by going through the scenarios and properly positioning yourself in proper income-producing products that offer guarantees with a portion of your assets, and then taking the rest and managing it to minimize downside risk. Again, those assets are investment-based. They will lose money at times, but don't you want to regulate how much those will lose?
Right. Absolutely. For additional information on the topics we are discussing this morning, 843-735-5065. Check the website for a calendar of events, cfpgroup.biz, cfpgroup.biz. You can also catch past programs there as well. We are discussing an article from marketwatch.com, why buy and hold is a bad idea for retirees. And that scenario, Rick, that we just walked through, a very sobering picture indeed. My question is, why do you think retirees and pre-retirees continue to believe in the buy and hold strategy? I mean, taking money out of your investments with no downside protection is simply not a good idea, is it?
Well, it's because they were so successful during those accumulation years using that strategy. But the whole paradigm shifts when you shift from accumulation to distribution. And
different philosophy, for sure.
What my biggest concern is, Shane, is that people aren't learning how critically important it is to understand this new process of distribution and how it needs to work throughout years 10, 20, 30, perhaps as long as 40 years in retirement. You mentioned it in the last week's show. You said people accumulated this wealth over 10, 20, 30, 40 years of working.
Now what?
Now we have maybe that long of time to go throughout our retirement years. So buy and hold strategies do not work as well during markets that are volatile, which we're in since 2000. There's no indication that that's going to change anytime soon.
No kidding.
That we're going to get out of this volatile environment that we're in. Why it happens is a whole nother discussion for another show. But demographics definitely play a big part in that, and the baby boom generation moving into and throughout retirement play a big part in that continued volatility, and especially in the U.S. stock market. So buy and hold no longer works. You have to have active management of your investments. You have to set a risk tolerance. You have to know with a high degree of confidence that once you set that risk tolerance for your loss, which everybody's saying, well, why would I want to just set that at 0? Why would I want to take any loss? Well, sorry, but if you take risk in investments, you have to take some degree of loss.
Right.
Because not only is it impossible to properly time the market and avoid loss, but you have to take a certain amount of loss in a volatile market, or else you're trading in and out too much and your transaction costs eat away your returns because you're going off risk too frequently when, again, using a benchmark of the S&P 500, we know that domestic equities lose 5% every 3.4 months in the current volatile period that we're in. We know that the average is every 14 months that they lose 10%. So you have to say, we have to accept a certain amount of downside, because if we go out, we'll miss that upside when it comes back up.
Right.
Because maybe our risk modeling doesn't have us going back in because we want to avoid the potential at 8% in an investment so we don't hit 10, but then we're going to miss part of that up when things go back up. Or, the converse of that is that we made a good decision and things continue to go down and we only lost 8% when we would accept a 10% drawdown. But you have to walk through a process of risk analysis that allows you to calculate what you're willing to take as far as loss, because risk and reward are traveling companions. If you want more reward, you have to stay in it for the long haul. You do have to buy and hold, but you have to add that final feature of buy and hold with downside risk management.
Right. Well, hopefully we've converted a retiree or a pre-retiree that has been a buy and hold disciple. For that person, Rick, that may not know what to do with this information that we've discussed this morning, maybe their mind is blown by that scenario we walked through, what's a good first step? And you've got 3 minutes to answer this question.
3 minutes, tick-tock, tick-tock. Well, the first thing is, folks, stop drinking the Kool-Aid.
Yeah.
Okay? We have to understand that the information that's been given us in the past is no longer applicable in the time period that we live in now, called retirement, for many, many reasons. We have to ask this question also: when is the last time, other than on this radio program or at one of my workshops or educational seminars, did you hear about or learn about or were taught from a past source of financial advice the importance of planning against sequence of returns risk? We just went through another example of a retiree that retired with $1 million prior to 2000 and was out of money by 2013. A very successful accumulator.
Yeah.
Someone that had $1 million. Someone that didn't obviously have those buy and hold strategies re-explained to them as to how they would apply to them in their retirement years. You need to learn about that. You need to come in, sit down with us, take part in a 3-step review. We'll walk through how your future financial decisions will affect you from a tax standpoint, from an income planning standpoint, from a distribution standpoint or estate planning standpoint, and also from a risk standpoint. And then we'll go on to a second, third meeting. And then eventually when you decide, yes, I want to be your client, Rick, I want you to continue to guide me throughout retirement with your knowledge and your plans that we have developed together. We've got in, we've rolled up the sleeves, we've developed these together. You helped educate me. You helped me to discover what's in my best interest through a series of learning meetings where I learned, yes, this is in my best interest. You've shared with me the facts. We've set aside our old misconceptions and myths that have governed our financial decisions up till now. And we know this is in our best interest to move forward. So today, Shane, I want to offer our listeners the complimentary 3-step review. Call us at 735-5065. We'll send you out an initial appointment warm-up package that'll have the information that you need to prepare to be there and be prepared, and we can get the most out of this meeting. You'll get directions to our office. You'll correspond back and forth with Liz Marr by email from our office. She's my scheduler, and we'll have another potential happy retiree come through our educational process, and you'll discover why it's so important that you change your process of accumulation to distribution in the proper ways. So thanks for the opportunity for talking about that today, Shane.
And again, the article was found at marketwatch.com, Why Buy and Hold is a Bad Idea for Retirees. If you'd like a copy of the article, send Rick an email, rick@cfpgroup.biz, rick@cfpgroup.biz. It's an opportunity for you to really sit down with this article and walk through this scenario that we walked through, where someone that had $1 million in 2000 was flat broke by 2013 based on a buy and hold strategy. Rick, always good to see you, sir. Yes?
Oh, congratulations to the most interesting man who retired. Okay, he's on his one-way trip in his rocket ship to Mars. He must have had a successful retirement.
You must have. Good for him.
Stay thirsty, my friends.
The most interesting man in the world. Rick, we'll see you back here next week, sir.
Thank you, Shane, and thank you to you, our listener. Join us again next Saturday morning here on 94.3 WSC and 94.3WSC.com for another half hour of Retire Right with Rick Durkee, Saturday mornings, 9 a.m.